Swamatadao CEO. Even the local snack seller wants to be called Chief Executive Officer. This is the story of many male and female entrepreneurs in northern Nigeria, including that of my cousin, Fatima. Fatima makes northern Nigerian snacks like Iloka and Tuwon Madara, and she currently generates revenues of about 50,000 naira monthly. But what is stopping Fatima from being able to generate monthly revenues of over 1 million naira? By the way, this is a picture of where she started from. This is where she is. And this is a picture that we put on her mind map during a short 30-minute strategy session. Why is it that the Italian sesame seed cookie can generate $100 million annually, but our Reedy snacks are confined to local markets? After all, they are essentially the same thing. See, these are the sort of questions that kept me up at night after I graduated from university. Because if we have many Fatimas in us, as we did see today, how then do we begin to fund and finance the businesses and the great ideas that come from the Fatimas? So what are those challenges? What are the obstacles in our economies that are constantly affecting our Fatimas? A research shows that there are a number of things in the Nigerian economy. We can talk about inefficient entrepreneurial skills. We can talk about unstable economic and political climates. We can talk about infrastructure. But you see, the biggest problem of all is financing. Now let's zoom out. Draw a little bit out from Fatima. How do we finance those grassroots innovators, I ask again? Charity? Philanthropy? NGOs? That's probably what you are immediately thinking. Fatima might have an auntie somewhere who should provide her with the money to carry on with this business. But you see, free money doesn't build sustainable economies. Free money doesn't give entrepreneurs the strength and the capacity, the discipline that they need to be able to build sustainable businesses. And the other thing is, free money is very unreliable. What happens if that NGO cuts off Fatima's funding? Does that mean that Fatima shuts down tomorrow? The small source of revenue that she has, that she's able to use to take care of her little daughter, is cut short. Okay, so what next? We've established that it cannot be free money. What about banks? I know that that's exactly what you're thinking. But Fatima started this business just over a year ago. She has no accounting records. And I can guarantee you that from every other month, she's taking a little bit out of her capital. Collateral, you say? I don't know that Fatima has any land somewhere in Maitama. Okay, so what else? The way I like to approach this method is through the scientific thinking. Not just because I'm a green energy scientist, but because making data-driven decisions has been something that has been imbibed in me right from when I was little. From the everyday debates that I have with my mother, where for the life of me, I cannot understand how she's able to spontaneously make purchases just because she likes it. No market research, no price comparison, no comparing with other competitors. I'm not entirely risk averse, but I have a very low tolerance for taking uncalculated risks. So in this short talk, I would like to implore you to use the scientific method. Go back to your integrated science classes. For those who are a bit younger, I think you call it basic science now. Science teaches us that we must first of all define what the problem is. So from all of these things that we've talked about, one thing stands out: that the traditional and easily accessible forms of financing are not accessible to Fatima. Traditional funding models don't work for businesses like that of Fatima's, like those of the grassroots innovators in our economy. What innovative solutions can we use to change this? That is the problem I'm going to implore you to answer with me today. Science then says we must hypothesize. So, what are the reasons why we come across and say that this is a problem? What are those fundamental factors that we are able to identify? One is that we have rigidity in our financial services. Our banks want to take a chance on only the safest companies and already established enterprises. Can you blame them? Look at our economy. There's also the issue of type of capital. Do we get capital from Morocco or do we get capital from Kano? And how does that impact the everyday entrepreneur in our economy? There's also short-term focus. If Fatima is also able to access funding from Kano, I assure you that that Kano entrepreneur, like many of us in this room, is not going to ask Fatima to wait 7 to 10 years to give him back his money. If at all allows it, he's going to want to make sure he receives some form of dividends annually, maybe biannually. Okay, so the next thing is science teaches us that we must experiment. How do we carry out these experimentations? The simple thing that I found, and the major factor that I think we are not inculcating in designing financial products for the Fatimas of our economy is that we are leaving them out of it. We are designing products for them and not with them. And oftentimes, when you design solutions for people without including them in the design process, without co-creating those products with them, you most often than not will end up with products that only cater to your own needs and not the Fatimas. We must listen to their needs, understand their constraints, and co-create financial products with them. So science then says, let's draw insights from the experiment. We've experimented now, right, in the last couple of minutes. What we can see is that sustainable money and sustainable businesses have a symbiotic relationship. If one falls, the other falls. If you look at the sustainable money aspect of it, is it local or is it foreign? Foreign is patient, but it's expensive. Local capital is readily available, but doesn't want to wait. We are also a mostly interest-free economy. The average northerner is afraid of men in suits that say they come from banks. And the most interesting of all, we like to own. We are not a credit-based economy. Everybody wants to own what they have. So after drawing our insights from it, we must then draw out a conclusion. What are you expecting? That in this 15 minutes, we would have generated products to solve the problem of the millions of youths or innovators in Ariwa? No. My goal for you is to extract what science does for us. Science forces us to teach without bias. Science teaches us to only consider the factors that affect our economy. In this case, we're talking about cultural dynamic and capital origin. Taking research-driven approach enables us to build products that are for our uniqueness and the businesses that come out of it. You might be thinking that, well, I don't know anything about this. Maybe I haven't had those challenges. But I tell you, it's the same look that I see on people's faces in the audience today that I constantly get when I walk into rooms. People are often wondering, how the heck is a Black Northern Nigerian woman talking venture capital and financial strategy? It's something they cannot comprehend. But you see what I've done with every single time that I've walked into rooms and people have questioned my capabilities and capacities to be able to instruct in the way that I do. I've sat down and it has forced me to make sure that I don't give them any reason to doubt me. I've seen those obstacles as inspirations. I've taken them to prove myself. And I've seen those challenges not as roadblocks, but as means of resilience and means of achieving my success. Now, see, for every of the Fatimas that are daring to dream, every of the Fatimas that are daring to innovate, any of the Fatimas that are creating and blowing boundaries beyond societal limits, I want to say that crushing obstacles is not just about creating fancy, innovative products. It means rethinking systems that have kept people like me and Fatima on the margins. It means creating financial models that are inclusive, culturally relevant, and accessible. It means showing the world that the future of innovation can and will be driven by people from the most unexpected places in the world that look just like me and the Fatima in you. Thank you.